Just some breaking news we're getting involving the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and it's reported that he's been referred to police by the Cabinet Office over new claims that he broke COVID lockdown rules, this time apparently relating to visitors at Chequers during the pandemic. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Joe Pike. So, Joe, the problem's mounting for the former Prime Minister.
Indeed, Mark, especially as that Privileges Committee investigation into him potentially misleading Parliament continues. And it's that committee investigation which has effectively prompted all of this. The Cabinet Office, officials at the heart of government, discovering in the Prime Minister's ministerial diary evidence of visits by friends of the former Prime Minister to Chequers, his official country residents during the pandemic, which it would seem would be in contravention of some of those lockdown restrictions. Now, the Cabinet Office have referred these to the police, we understand, both the Met Police and Thames Valley Police, I think because Chequers is in the Thames Valley Police force area. This is a story broken in the last few minutes by the Times newspaper. Allies of Boris Johnson said to think that this is politically motivated. They believe this is something to try and damage the reputation of Mr Johnson further. He, of course, is in the States at the moment, speaking at an event, we understand, in Vegas tomorrow. A statement, I think, from one of Mr Johnson's aides in the last few minutes. Some abbreviated entries in Mr Johnson's official diaries were queried by the Cabinet Office during preparation for the COVID inquiry. Following an examination of the entries, Mr Johnson's lawyers wrote to the Cabinet Office and Privileges Committee explaining that the events were lawful and were not breaches of any COVID regulations. So clearly Mr Johnson's aides believing that these events were lawful, they did not break restrictions, and Boris Johnson's legal team have made this clear, they believe, to the Cabinet Office and to the Privileges Committee. We understand at this stage Mr Johnson has had no contact from the police, the two forces, the Met Police and Thames Valley Police, who have been given this information by the Cabinet Office. Mr Johnson's team believe this is politically motivated, and the fact that he was given no notice before the Cabinet Office made this referral, they think, doesn't reflect positively on the Cabinet Office. But clearly, Mark, the whole issue around Partygate dogged Mr Johnson in his final months. It was one key reason why he left government. It is something that still is essential to understanding his legacy and his future within politics, because he could have of course face a long suspension and possibly therefore a by-election in his Uxbridge and South Ruislip seat. So we're waiting to hear from both the Met Police and Thames Valley Police, see if any action is taken, any investigations launched, but clearly not a positive development for the former Prime Minister if it transpires that there were more lockdown-breaking events, not, of course, in number 10 of the Cabinet Office, but at Chequers, at his official country residence.
I suppose it will come down to how likely the police are to revisit, breaches or possible breaches of breakdown rules during the pandemic.
Exactly, Mark. And of course, the Met didn't move particularly quickly after Partygate revelations made the newspapers and broadcasters as well. Of course, over 100 police fines were issued, fixed penalty notices were issued, including to Mr Johnson and, of course, to Rishi Sunak as well. But it's not clear at this stage that they have decided to investigate. Certainly, the Met Police and Thames Valley Police have received this information. They are deciding what to do next. But the very fact that the Cabinet Office have discovered this information in Boris Johnson's ministerial diary, that there had been visits by friends to Chequers during the pandemic, is itself very significant. Mr Johnson's aides clearly thinking this is politically motivated and are angry that the Cabinet Office did not flag what they were doing to him first. But a pretty, I think, significant story for Mr Johnson, and one broken by the Times newspaper in the last 10 minutes or so.
OK, Joe, thanks very much. We'll see what happens with all this. Joe, thanks very much.